The future of law isn't just about AI or automation or the next legal tech startup. It's about people, visibility, culture, and the conversations we're brave enough to have. In this episode, I'm showcasing the key conversations that are defining the future of law. One of the best ways you can future-proof your legal career is becoming more marketable, not just as a lawyer, but as a person, as a voice, as someone people remember, trust, and want to work with. You could be the smartest person in the room, but if nobody knows what you do, how you think, or why it matters, you'll keep getting overlooked. If you want to future-proof your career, build a reputation that opens doors, your skills matter. But your ability to communicate them, that's your edge. I genuinely think the future of law and of law firms, and I'm talking the next 5 years, definitely next 5 to 10 years, is that each person within a law firms are going to be started or created by these really forward-thinking people, which they are starting to become now. You know, I see people leave law firms because they think the billable hour is backdated, and they start these new law firms and they bring in people. I think the future of law firms is that the individuals within the law firms, the lawyers, the employees, are going to have their own personal brands, and collectively that's going to boost the employer, the company brand. And I think that people are going to start employing lawyers based on their personal brands and their how many followers they have, how many clients they can bring in. I think that this might be really like outlandish or futuristic or even incorrect, but this is what I believe, that even partners are going to start to become, I don't want to say irrelevant, but I want to say that associates and other lawyers are going to become also responsible for bringing in clients through their personal brands. And I think that firms are going to start bringing on lawyers due to their credibility, authenticity, the follower count, and how engaged they are online. I think this is a future trend. And I think that individual lawyers who don't keep up are going to fall behind, and AI is going to take over in terms of, gosh, there's so many points here, actually. I think that AI is going to take over their roles in terms of like the admin tasks and the bitty tasks that they have to do, potentially the doc reviews, things like this, so that their actual personality, their personal skills will need to be more important, including their personal brand. And I also think that firms that don't bring on lawyers who have big personal brands are going to fall behind as well, because they're going to be filled with their firms are going to be filled with people who have no online presence, who are, as we say, invisible. And other firms that are competing with them are going to be winning the clients because people are going to be coming to them, because that's how it works. You know, you build your personal brand and you walk into that room and you gain the client. You walk into that in-person networking room and you get the client because people already know you. So this is what I think is going to be the future of law and the competition within the legal industry.
What you're saying here really is revolutionary. And I think we need to understand that, because a lot of people, especially people who are, I'd say in their 40s plus particularly, are not going to believe this right now. They're going to listen to this and think that is a total load of rubbish. Yeah, we should get them on the podcast, actually. I want to debate it out with them, because I think this is really... Let's get them on. What we're talking about here is social media as a currency. We're not talking about random follower count of random people all over the world. It doesn't matter what they think. You know, if you took my LinkedIn, I can tell you because I know who's on my LinkedIn. I have the partners in the top law firms. I have top people in finance. I have super powerful people following me. Okay. That has a value on so many levels. It potentially has a financial value if you can convert that into sales, but it also has a value in terms of reputation, brand. So if a personal brand is affiliated with a company brand, that lifts the company brand. Also, this goes back to something Holly and I talk about all the time, which is that People buy from people. Sales and marketing is a human experience. So, therefore, to have the most successful company brand, you have to humanize that brand. And especially through something like LinkedIn, the way to leverage the company brand is actually through very strong personal brands. Also, what you're kind of doing here is taking apart the idea of partnership, because partnership is a construct whereby essentially the owners of the business are the partners, the equity partners, right? In other types of businesses, usually or often, you might have shareholders. What you're saying is an associate's going to come through and say, well, hold on a minute, my brand is bringing all these clients. I want a slice of the pie. What does this mean for law? Does that mean they should be a partner? Does that mean they should have a slice of the equity? Does this mean a sort of complete reconstruction in the way things are done? Does this mean a change of their remuneration packages? What it certainly does mean is that lawyers need to become more entrepreneurial, because you're going to hit a ceiling in your career if you're not entrepreneurial. And also, if you don't have a strong brand, you're going to be limited in terms of what you can achieve.
100% agree. I think that, as you have said, the need to be entrepreneurial and a marketer as a lawyer is law's best kept secret. It is the key to partnership, it's the key to progression in your career, and it's the key to business in general. Everyone's talking about the future of law, automation, efficiency, but there's another part of the story we don't talk about enough, and that's culture. Because what's the point of being more profitable if everyone's burnt out, bored, or leaving? Young lawyers aren't chasing the same goals. They want purpose, flexibility. Some are entrepreneurial. Some aren't sold on the idea that partnership equals success. Meanwhile, many firms are clinging to the same structures, the same KPIs, the same ladder. Let me introduce you to Jonathan Watmough, award-winning former managing partner and author of How to Thrive in a Commercial Law Firm. We talk about how firms can balance culture and profitability if they're willing to evolve, because the culture they build will become their competitive advantage.
So, Jonathan, talking about lawyers, their skill set, but particularly with a focus on the future of law, what I find really curious is how law firms and lawyers going forward are going to remain competitive in the market. And you quoted a quote recently in an article of yours where you said, "We've lost the war on profitability and now we're losing the war on culture." Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, that's not my quote. That came to me from the managing partner of a Silver Circle firm. But I've heard that sentiment for years, actually, so it's nothing new. But that sentiment is that at the upper end of the city, the impact of US firms and the impact of a US business model and the big US firms coming in to compete so heavily as they have done is shifting the culture in a lot of the big law firms, broadly speaking. It's moving to a much more entrepreneurial, individual, numbers strategy based approach, whereas the traditional approach in English firms is much more of a balanced view between people and culture and numbers and strategy. On the one hand, it's not where I came from. It's not where, to an extent, it is where you came from, actually, Helen, to a degree. So it's not something which necessarily is natural to a lot of British lawyers. But you pay your money and you take your choice. But you have to recognise that if you're going into that sort of culture, you have to recognise that there are considerable differences. You will be worked a lot harder, and there will be all sorts of other consequences. If you're capable of lasting the course with that, and that's what you want to do, knock yourself out. If it's not for you, there will be variations in other English firms, but I don't necessarily criticize it. It's just the way it is, and the market has shifted in that direction. There's nothing anyone can do about it. And it's not a conscious choice by any of these firms. None of these firms woke up one day and said, I know, we're going to imitate this US model. You just get dragged along. It's like a tractor beam like pull. It's just the way it is. There's too much US capital in London. There's too many US clients in London, and so it migrates towards a US model. It's just the way it is. So it's not something to moan about. It's something to know. If you're a young lawyer going into one of those firms, you have to know what you're getting into. I think the big difference now is it's a very, very big business. So it's graduated from being a small business in most cases to being a massive business. But no, I don't think professionalism or the professional aspects are being eroded at all in many ways. If anything, I think the impact of the regulator and the impact of regulation is driving actually greater focus on professionalism. And I see, in the stuff I'm involved in, I mean, Helen, you will know Patrick McCann of Linklaters, for example, the stuff they're doing on the City of London Law Society Training Committee is just exceptional relating to apprenticeships and stuff. So I don't see any impact on professionalism. I think it's still very much a deep profession. I mean, in many ways, it's the business aspects that trouble lawyers more than the professional aspects. The professional aspects are business as usual for lawyers. The business side, that's where it all starts going wrong, because no one goes into the law to become a business person, do they? Let's face it.
So you say that the problem that lawyers have is perhaps that they don't want to embrace the business side of law. Why do you think this is?
Yeah, lawyers are not naturally, they're not natural business people. Business people would have all sorts of different attributes naturally, which would not make them good lawyers. And good lawyers have lots of different attributes which don't necessarily make them good business people. And therefore, good business lawyers who turn into the business of law by nature most of them have to go a considerable distance out of their comfort zone in all sorts of ways, which a lot of them don't particularly like and don't find natural and struggle with. And unfortunately, firms naturally don't necessarily support all that stuff. It's in many cases, it's a survival of the fittest, those people who either have it within them in some way, shape or form to go out their comfort zone and to learn these things will come through. But so by nature, you end up with lots of people who are very good at the business of law who are not necessarily the best lawyers. The best lawyers, being a top lawyer and being very good at the business of law is ultra rare in my experience.
The legal industry needs better conversations, the kind that actually move the profession forward. That's why events like Future Law matter. Let me introduce you to the founders of Future Law, Valentin Feklistov and Alex Bitskov. They created the event to talk about what's really happening at the intersection of law, tech, and innovation. Tech alone won't transform the industry, but the right conversations will. These conversations aren't a luxury, they're a necessity.
For me, it was about changing the conversation within the legal industry. Legal conferences, even now, they often focus on just lawyers talking to lawyers, just smart people showing how smart they are in front of other smart people or other professionals. But I felt like we needed a space where you have the tech side, the business side, and the legal professionals where they could meet on equal ground.
We wanted to address access to justice question, first of all, because there was a giant gap between those who are seeking legal help and those who can afford legal help in practice.
So I'd like to know how you have seen the conversation around legal tech change since you even first launched the conference in 2023.
I think back then in 2023, the conversation was very general. It was like automation, contract management, legal ops, and lawyers at that time were still a bit cautious, but curious at the same time of just tech integration. And AI wasn't really on the horizon just yet. Many saw tech as useful, but they didn't really especially small firms. They didn't really know how to integrate it, how to use it in daily work. There may be, more advanced tools, I guess. Of course, everyone uses Word and Excel and stuff like that, but there were conversations about efficiency and how to make processes faster, reduce manual work. That's always a conversation. But then in 2024, that was the AI year, right? Everyone was like, it doesn't matter whether it was legal tech or anything else, everyone was talking about AI, particularly generative AI. And that was where the focus shifted in our conference as well. Almost every panel, even if it wasn't related to AI, or every keynote was somehow mentioned AI in some way, But there were some concerns about ethical risks, accuracy of the information. Actually, a lot of concerns about accuracy of the information. And there was a clear divide or at the same time. I can't say half or how many lawyers, but like some lawyers saw AI as a threat to their jobs and others as a tool, they can enhance their practice and we should use it. Some were excited about it and thought that it will replace a lawyer altogether. And that's a lawyer, being excited about an AI replacing them. It's really weird. But now I think the conversation is, and it was also last year, it was also changing a bit as well. It was a little bit more about data accuracy. And I think this is where the conversation is going this year. So we're moving beyond the AI hype. AI is still there. We understand that it's a tool now, but now we focus on, data governance, data accuracy, and how humans remain in control of AI-driven legal processes.
I would definitely say that data accuracy, data protection, and knowledge management will be the key trends and key questions that will be discussed during the conference. I think diverse legal teams are something we've been experiencing for the last 5 or 7 years, and now it will become even more actual, even more popular within legal departments around the world. Of course, contracting and contract management won't go anywhere. It will stay, but it will be shifted towards the work with generative AI rather than just automation. I'm not saying that contracting will be handled by generative AI. I don't think so. But it will legal process, legal operations within contracting sector will be handled by generative AI to a certain extent. I also foresee technology integration because distinction between legal tech and general technology is likely to blur. Why? Because enterprise technology can actually consolidate quite a lot of tools. And since we've been experiencing many acquisition this and last year within legal tech space, we see that giant corporations such as LexisNexis, Thomson Reuters, Wolters Kluwer, they are contributing increasingly into legal tech space, and they will be able to provide customized and consolidated solutions to large corporations. And therefore, I see that technology integration will be our future for sure. Of course, an increased spending on legal tech is definitely something we should be aware of. That's why it is very important to have a proper in-house legal counsel who will be able to properly assess the need in the organization. First of all, to tackle rather organizational structure and legal processes within the organization to prepare the organization for the implementation of any tech around there, and only then think about buying something. Therefore, I foresee marketplace volatility within legal technology space, and it will remain volatile, vendor consolidation and new entrants.
How do you see the role of lawyers changing as technology continues to automate legal processes and innovate?
I think especially with all the progress that we've made in the last few years with AI and loads of tools, tech tools that simplify automation of processes, just simplify a lot of processes. I think you lawyers evolving from process executors to strategic advisors. I feel like this is kind of where it's happening because you can automate so much now. Like you do your routine tasks, contract reviews, legal research, AI, right? You don't need to waste your time on this anymore. That's all AI assisted. And now you can focus on complex decision making, negotiations, risk assessment. This is something that uh, maybe AI can assist you with, but I think that's what a lawyer is best at. So this kind of very strategic functions. AI can be a legal assistant, but definitely not a replacement. Maybe, I mean, technology is evolving fast. Maybe in 10 years, AI will replace us all. But for now, I don't see it. I
We
feel
will
like
be
the assistant.
sending our avatars to the court.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So AI will, I think it will be handling, drafting, summarizing, analyzing, this kind of stuff. But the lawyers will oversee, validate, and, apply human judgment. that human touch that any work by AI needs. For example, AI might generate a case argument, but the lawyer will refine this argument based on case law, strategy, and ethics, of course, is very, very, very important. I think specialized knowledge, we kind of discussed this with Valentin. Valentin doesn't fully agree. I feel like, but I feel like specialized knowledge will become more valuable. And so general knowledge is becoming commoditized, if you can use that. And lawyers will need more niche expertise. Or like certain niche expertise will be in demand. Of course, a lawyer that covers a general, like a wider scope of things is very useful and in demand. But when you have niche expertise plus AI literacy, boom, you're flying. Data law, AI ethics, regulatory compliance are all like emerging high value specializations that we see. Yeah, legal education and training will change, future law. But lawyers, they need tech fluency, 100%. That's why we're here. And knowing how AI works, how to verify its output, how to integrate it into the workflows, that's super, super important stuff.
But a lot of people are saying, we shouldn't learn about AI or use AI because that's lazy and that's going to take my job. And I'm thinking that's a really strange way to look at it, but I can understand why you're seeing it that way. And then other people are saying, AI will push lawyers to be better lawyers because they'll realize that, there's something else that can make them more efficient. And so the future of law is about being more human, and they can tap into their more human side and, like you're saying, I guess, niche down and be more specific and technical and give different types of advice that they didn't necessarily need to give before because there wasn't so much technology around. So there's so many different opinions at the moment, and it's just really interesting about how this conversation will progress, especially at the conference as well. Like, I'm very interested to hear what people have to say about the future of law. If you've ever wondered how to build a legal career that fits your lifestyle and values, I've created something for you. 25 Ways to Do Law Differently and Get Paid for It is a free guide filled with simple yet impactful ideas for lawyers who want more freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment in their work. Just go to the description where you'll find the link.